Hello and welcome to the podcast. I am so excited today to bring this topic. We're going to talk about healthy mindsets for moms, all parents, but particularly moms who are listening. And I'm delighted to have Brianna Wilkerson with me. She is a holistic health and life coach, and she's the host of Tea Time with Bree podcast. And she is the mom of two little bitty kiddos. And so I'm so happy to have you here and talk about this topic with you.
Yeah,
So
thank you so much for having me.
You're welcome. So why don't you tell us a little bit about you and your family and the things that you do?
So I'm originally from the Caribbean. I live in the States right now, Florida, and me and my husband were married. We got married out of college, and we're married about 6 or 7 years before we had kids. And then we had our first child during the pandemic, our daughter, and then we had our son 2 years after, almost exactly 2 years after. And so, yeah, our life is really full right now with them, a 3 and a 1-year-old. Everyone that I talk to, all the moms I talk to, they're just like, you're in the thick of it, like you can get through it. And I'm like, wow, it does really feel like we're in the thick of it, and we tried moving our kids into the same room. It didn't work. And we're trying to figure out sleep all over again. So they take a lot of our time, but they're gifts at the same time. I wouldn't want any other kids. Like, I just love them.
Sure.
So
yeah.
And I've been in business probably about 7 years, nearly
Wow.
8 years, coaching and doing a couple different things. And I knew that when I had kids, I would want to continue to do that. So that was very much like, I know some people say you wait and you have kids and you decide. I'm like, I just knew I love work. I love what I do. But it has been a challenge, like figuring out rhythms with that, right? Like my kids are my full-time job. They're home with me, but I do have childcare here and there. But like my mind is always still thinking about work too. So
No. Yeah.
so it's hard in this season, but I wouldn't have it any other way. So
Right. Yeah. So they are at home with you while you're doing your work each day. Do you find that
yeah.
distracting?
Yeah, so there's a couple days a week that I do have like a nanny come in or babysitter come in for times like this that I want to record and I can't have people all around, kids all around me. And then the other days I try to work before they get up or during their naps or when they go to bed, which again, they're so young that sometimes their schedule is like, yes, we're gonna do this, mom, at 1 p.m. We're gonna take a nap. Sometimes it's like, it's optional today, mom. I'm like, okay,
I'm really not going to sleep today.
exactly. So, which was yesterday. So it is challenging, but I just try to tell myself, like, even if I take small steps, I'm moving more towards that goal. And that's hard for me as
Exactly.
someone who is an achiever on the Enneagram, who is very ambitious, that I don't have to stop the things I'm passionate about. I just might be at a different pace than it would otherwise be.
Yeah, that's such a great way to look at it. The other day I was interviewing somebody on the podcast, and she told me when we were done that her little boy was just on the other side of her computer, staring at her the whole time, waiting for her to put him in bed.
Oh man, well, at least he was just staring at her. My kids would just
Yeah.
jump in the video, start singing, or so.
So let's talk about this mindset thing. How do
Mm.
you keep a positive mindset? I think you probably must be pretty exhausted.
Most days.
Yeah.
Most days. I think this is always something that I feel like mindset is, as you know, it's like the key. It's the key to like seeing life differently, actually enjoying your life no matter what season you're in, and actually moving towards whatever level of success or goal in any area of your life. And it's always the area that I know I need to pay attention to more, but it's the area that's easiest to go, right? It's easiest to be like, I don't need to read this book or pray or journal or whatever,
Right.
or talk to a friend about what I'm feeling. I just gotta like get my stuff done. And what
Mhm.
I found is I've I'm not someone that says I'm overwhelmed. Often I'm not someone that's just like my emotions just like paralyze me. I kind of like work through them. But with kids and just with the level they're at, like they're just like their constant need for things. And you thought you had time, but you didn't. I realize I'm feeling a lot more of those emotions, and my mindset is not as positive or is not as like focused as it once was. And I realize it's because I need more mindset time. I need more time to like process my thoughts, process my feelings, but I'm not giving myself that because I
Mhm.
just think, let's just get stuff done. And so for me, what helps me is really, I was talking with someone the other day, is like creating non-negotiables around what are the things that make me take care of myself. and make them as simple as possible as a mom. I did a live about this yesterday because it's very easy to be like, oh yeah, working out just helps me clear my mind. And I used to do an hour or 2 hours in the gym. Now I'm like 10 minutes is like good, like, so it's really recognizing that like I still need to do these things that care for myself holistically, particularly my mind, but it might look different. And I have to be okay with that because it's really easy to do all or nothing, right? It's really easy to be like, if I don't have time to journal for 30
Right.
minutes, I'm not going to journal.
Right.
Versus like 5 or 10 minutes still make a difference. And so, yeah, I created these 5 non-negotiables for me that help me like holistically just feel well, ready for the day, better mindset. And I try to fit them in early on in the morning if I can. If not, I just like stagger them like throughout my day. Like my kids are like content watching a show, read, or you know what I mean? So
Yeah. It's really funny how easy it is to not do the things that you know are good for you. Isn't it funny?
yes.
It's a really strange thing.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, one of the things that we used to do when our kids were where your kids are, we had 3 under 4, 3 and 4 years. And so there were a lot of years of just really thick parenting. And you know, there's a lot of times when everyone's just crying or making a lot of noise all at the same time, usually in the car. And so I just tried to make myself laugh at it instead of get mad at it. And that did help, you know, even though it was a fake laugh for a while, it would usually become a real laugh because then you kind of realize the unimportance of all of this screaming in the back seat. You know, it really isn't the end of the world. It's just some screaming, you know. And the
They
way
feel like it's the end of the world, but you need to reset
it does feel like
from
it. Yeah.
themselves. It's not the end of the world.
Right. And rolling down the windows helps a lot too.
Right. Exactly.
So let's dig down a little bit deeper on that. What does that look like for you, self-care?
Yeah. You know, I think self-care in this season, I think it does it for people, it might be different areas of your life, but for me to be solid, like these ones that like I need to do daily are journaling or prayer. I do prayer through journaling, just to allow myself to get my thoughts out and get clear of what actually I'm feeling, what actually is going on. Reading. I love personal development. As you know, we love that genre, and I just think it's a gift. And so reading, even if it's like 7-10 pages or 10 minutes a day. A scripture for me, it's another way to reset my mind. Working out, exercise, and some days, again, it's only like short, to the point, 10 minutes. Some days it's an hour, some days it's longer, but at least I'm trying to move intentionally in some way, whether it's a walk or something like that. And then cleaning. So I'm a mom of 3 and a 1-year-old, so my house is wild. Like we don't have a special playroom, it's just like everywhere. And so for me, like it often feels like my life is just like not my own, like it's just out of control. And my house feels that way. But when I can just spend like 5-10 minutes a day just straightening up something, washing the dishes here and there, it just feels like, okay, I have a handle on it. So that I would never, in the past, I wouldn't say that that's self-care, but it's definitely self-care now. So those are like my 5. But then also doing some sort of work or something where I'm creating something, right? So if it's like a podcast, or if it's like talking a new conversation with a potential client, like doing something like that that's moving for that bigger dream each day. And then spending time with like my loved ones, particularly my husband, because we have a 3 and 1-year-old. So that's very far in between. So even if it's just like, how was your day? Or and so when I do those sort of things, I just feel like, okay, great. I feel grounded. I feel like it's self-care. And then of course there's other things that I do once a week or once a month, but doing those daily, even if it's like 5-10 minutes, really helps me feel grounded.
Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think that maybe you and I are cut out of the same fabric, because those are exactly the same things that fill me and make me feel better in a day.
Right.
I mean, there was a period of time where I was like in a business learning group for a 12-month period, and then followed by a 6-month one. And so I had 18 months of, you know, pretty committed time to learning. And both of those groups had a required book per month. And so in this period of time, I had 18 books that I was trying to get through. I didn't get through all of them, but I got through a lot of them, you know, it was such a delightful time for me to now looking back at it thinking, man, I got to get back into that reading because
Mm,
without somebody telling me to do it, I'm not as apt to
agreed.
stay on target with it,
Right.
And
Same. It's interesting. I was talking to a mentor this week, and I was talking about how my mindset in particular area of one of the businesses I run was just like, it was in grounded. I was just like insecure here or whatever. And I'm like, I normally aren't like this. She's like, what are you reading? And I said, oh, I love reading. I have so many of these books, but I just like always don't make time for it. And she immediately was like, listen, you need to get something. And she's like, different. It's not like you can listen to a podcast, great, but there's something about opening a book. And that's like your sole focus.
mhm,
And she's like, because if you keep thinking all these thoughts, it's just going to recreate thoughts like that. And you're going to start seeing those things versus like reading something like shifts your mindset a bit.
yeah,
So then you start thinking and seeing differently. And since then, that was like 3 days ago, I'm like, I've been reading like 10 minutes a day and it has made a difference.
mhm,
Right. And
yeah,
so for
yeah,
me, it's like, I love watching a particular show. I won't go into it, but at the end of the day, kids or whatever. And I'm like, no, make sure you get your reading done first
yeah, yeah.
and then you watch your show.
Right. Yeah. I find reading is very motivating.
Yes.
Like the business books, of course, are very motivating because
Right.
I'm not I wasn't a business major. I never took one business course in my whole life. And
Right.
so I'm really doing a whole lot of learning at this point in my life. But I love to pull out my child development books and just
Mm-hmm.
read those old textbooks I used to teach from and
Right.
remind myself of all of these fascinating and wonderful things about the children that I talk about every day in my work.
Mm-hmm.
So that's what I really love to read too.
Yeah. I love it.
So I know you work with a lot of moms and,
Mm-hmm.
helping them with their mindsets. What are some kind of interesting other requirements that people have for themselves? Have you ever heard of anything that's kind of
Yeah. I mean, I
off the
do
wall?
think it's interesting because primarily a lot of my work has been around women and helping them with their health, particularly nutrition, exercise, stress, and sleep. And it's interesting how they define self-care. They would define the same things like taking time to drink my water each
Mm-hmm.
week or
Yeah.
each day, taking time to like sit outside when I get home for 10 minutes before I get to my household duties after work.
Mm-hmm.
So it's really like these simple things that we we know are good for us, what you're saying, and don't seem huge and impactful, like going for a run or whatever, which is still great. But I think sometimes it's those simple things that we tell ourselves we don't have time for,
Mm-hmm.
that really can like fuel us. Some people have said even just a coaching session, like this is my time. Like, great, like I'm going to show up.
Right.
And half the time I'm like, yeah, that's what you need to show up for because you get to like dive deeper or whatever, or listening to a book or reading during their lunch break.
Mm-hmm.
So I think it's like almost like to summarize it, I think it's like like seeing little moments and snagging little moments to do those things that fuel them.
Mm-hmm.
Call a friend during their lunch hour or when their
Mm-hmm.
kids are sleeping. Because
Right.
I just think sometimes as moms, we see free, especially in this season where it feels like time is so scarce. I see every free moment to get something done,
Mm-hmm. Right.
which is fine. Like I still got to do those things, but what if I chose that this moment is when I just sit outside with a cup of coffee and just rock on my front porch, you
Mm-hmm.
know?
Mm-hmm.
And so honestly, I think it's a lot of the things that are just slower, not as
Right.
productive or that you could check things off that really fuel them and
Mm-hmm.
fuel us.
Yeah, I agree. And And it's not just busy, busy moms too. I mean, it's all
Right.
people. Here I am. I
Right.
don't have any children in the house, but all of those things are extremely important to me, as
Mm-hmm.
a person. And yeah, I think those are really great. So for people who are listening, who are in the thick of us and they're thinking, I don't know how to do that. What would be some tips that you could, kind of some action points to
Yeah.
actually put into practice what you're talking about?
Right. I think identify 1 to 3 areas of your life that you just want more fulfillment in, want more satisfaction. I even say more nourishment. Like if we look at like, maybe you've been so busy that you have friends that you've been meaning to call or hang out with. By the way, if you can always hang out with someone in person, do it. There's something about being with someone in person that you can't get virtually or on the
Yeah.
phone,
Yeah.
right? And or through a text. And so if you could do that, great. So if you're not feeling as nourished in there, like I just say dream big. Don't like negate it before you even like say what you want. Just like, what would be your ideal for self-care in those areas? So if it's relationships, like I want to hang out with a girlfriend like once a week. Like
Mhm.
that would really fill me up.
Right.
Okay, identify that. Okay, I would really love to go for a walk every day, or I would really love to just sit outside on my porch every day. And then just like
Mhm.
say it, dream big here. And then ask yourself, like, okay, well, now looking at your schedule, your life, where does that fit in? But also, there might be something, I think what we have to, there might be something that has to go in order for you to put that in there.
Mhm.
I think sometimes we're trying to fit in our self care into our lives when in reality, we need to put our self care first. Like, put it on your calendar. My ultimate tip is put it on your calendar as if it's a meeting.
Mhm.
Like, if
Yeah.
I need to like put on my calendar to go sit outside if it's a meeting with Anne, my teeth are gonna be brushed, my hair is gonna be done before I jump on this. I'm gonna be ready, you
Mhm.
know? And so
Mhm.
how can I prepare my life so that when my husband comes home, I'm like, all right, your turn, and I'm gonna go sit on the porch or whatever, right? And so I
Yeah.
think making it a priority by putting it in first, I think will help with that.
Mhm. Right. What I have found luck with my friends, a girlfriend, is to say we're going to have lunch on the first Monday of every month or
Mhm.
something like that, so that we would go ahead and put it on our calendars and make arrangements for
Right,
that to happen. Of course, it sometimes doesn't, but you
right.
just, reschedule. But anyways, just having it there.
Yes.
And, another thing I do often is I'll put on my to-do list read 20 minutes in the middle of the
Mhm.
afternoon because I like to spend my morning quiet reading other
Mhm.
kinds of things, but I do like to spend the afternoon reading time for
Mhm.
more business related stuff.
Right.
Yeah, those are really good tips. And I think that, when you say I'm going to do this and you determine, you know, make this determination for yourself, then talking to the people that you live with and saying this is what I would like to do. How can we
Yes.
make this happen? And what can I do for you to give you the same space to do the
Right.
same things?
Yeah.
And
Yeah, it's a realizing that, like, after you've identified that, what support do you need? And,
mhm,
by voicing for it, asking for it, not just
mhm,
expecting it. Because I think sometimes as moms, if we, naturally, we're just gonna do a lot with the kids. That's just kind of who we are. But
mhm.
we expect our husband or people to look at what we're doing and say, "Oh, honey, go here, just have some time for yourself."
You must need a break.
Yeah, which honestly, it's not that they're not thinking about it, they just don't know you might want it. So versus
Right.
like,
Yeah.
"Hey, I need a break. Can I do," like, not can I, well, you can. Like, "I would like to do this here. Does it work?" Like, you know what you're
Yeah.
saying? And so,
Yeah.
I had someone I was talking to about who does a lot of negotiation, and she, helps moms or helps women negotiate their things, and she was similar. She went to, realize that the husband was always, going out, hanging out with the guys. And the wife had to be like, okay, well, if you get to do that, I get to do that too.
Mhm.
And then she did it, versus he just didn't know. So, and so I think that's
You
part of
would
it is,
want to do that too.
yeah, like just voicing it and
Right.
asking,
Yeah.
and I think that often, and that's why we don't have what we want.
Right.
It's because we're
Exactly.
not asking for it. So
Yeah. I
kids
mean, that
kids
is
will
one
tell
of
you
the
what they want.
what?
Kids will tell you what they want over and over and over until sometimes you get you're like, "Fine."
I I know. We're born into this world with a very clear idea of what it is that we want.
Right.
And I think it's really important for us to honor that in our
Mhm.
children, and give them
Mhm.
what they want as much as
Mhm.
possible.
Right.
I've always said, save your no's for the very important things. Always say yes if you can. Does it
Yes,
really
exactly.
matter if they have that shirt or this shirt or, this
Right,
cereal or
exactly.
whatever? But yeah, but somehow we get this message drilled into our
Mhm.
little brains early on, oftentimes by elementary school that
Mm.
our needs and wants shouldn't be voiced. And then
Mm.
when we get to be grown up people, we have to go find that again. And so
Right.
my encouragement to every parent is to not squash it so that it doesn't
Mhm.
have to be dealt with later on.
Right. Right.
Yeah. So, those are some really great tips. I love those. So as we wrap up this conversation around, things that you can do to stay uh, positive and healthy in your thinking and your actions. Do you have any last words of encouragement for anyone who's listening?
Yeah, I just think, if it's overwhelming or if you're like, I don't know where to start, just pick one thing
Mhm.
that, and often I think we know if we just sit for a moment, like, what's one thing that's really going to nourish my mind, my soul, my emotions, and do that.
Yeah.
And just try to do that as often as you can. And then when you feel like, okay, great, I want a little bit more, then add something to it. Cause I think this is just same thing with exercise. A lot of people are like, okay, I want to run a 5K. So I'm going to do this type of workout, this type of workout. It's like, that's overwhelming. Just start with walking and then
Mhm.
do that consistently, then add jogging or add intervals. You know what I mean? So similar with this, just pick one thing and try to do that as often as you can.
Yeah, that's great. Thank you
Mhm.
so much. This is really insightful. I know it's going to encourage parents and anyone listening to really consider how they're spending their time inside their head. It's really an
Yes.
important thing. Thank you, Brianna.
Awesome. Thank you
Brian.
so much.